back here to the Productive Homemaker. My name is Laramie, and I am so glad that you're here joining me. Here on my channel, I like to talk about frugal and intentional living and living within our means. I had such a great reaction from my first post that I put up talking about my husband and I's journey towards being mortgage free and how we moved our family across the United States just so that way we could radically change our lives for the better. I had a lot of people reach out here on YouTube as well as on Facebook and Instagram wanting to know a little bit more just about the scenario and like what happened and some questions. So I am going to go through some questions that you guys asked of me and answer them. I hope you enjoy. All right, so our first question and the most asked one is how the shape of the house was upon arrival. And that can be a hard question to answer because we have to be very realistic. We purchased a home for $22,000. So it was not a perfect, cute little cottage that you would see in a storybook fairy tale. When we got here, we had to replace all the doors. We had to replace and rewire the entire home. We spent 3 weeks in a hotel when we got here, so that way we could clean, paint, deep clean it, deep clean some more, and take all of the trash out. So it was not a beautiful, perfect little house. The grass when we got here was up past my knees because nobody had been tending to the property. It was not a beautiful sight to see, and I won't lie, we were overwhelmed when we got here. We weren't sure what we had gotten ourselves into. But the main things that we had to do is replace all the exterior doors, do the rewiring of the house, and just do a lot of deep cleaning in order to make it livable for us to move in. As it sits right now, 2 years later, we are still deep in throes of needing to finish renovations, but it takes time because we do cash flow. And in the last 2 years, we also added a family member to that. So that also costs money when you're giving birth and having babies. So yeah, that was the shape of the house. I would not say that it would be considered livable when we got here, and we spent that first couple weeks really honing in and just cleaning it up so that way we could be comfortable enough to stay in it. My next question that I got was, what was the hardest thing to overcome mentally? The hardest thing mentally for myself personally was just this rude awakening of just how many conveniences we had prior to moving to our little cottage in Appalachia. I was used to having a washer and dryer within arm's reach, as well as like a dishwasher, air conditioning, and normal like HVAC systems. None of these things which we had when we got here. So just coming to the realization that things were not going to be easy was a hard hurdle to overcome. You see, I knew it was going to be difficult, but I also had this level of dreamy qualities to it of, oh, it's going to be this cute, fun, little romantic thing, and that the bunnies and the deer in the local area were going to come and eat on our porch steps, and I would just have to sweep a little bit and it would be perfect. Now, obviously, that's not exactly what I thought, but my expectations versus the reality of when we got here were different. And I had to learn to be okay with things not being done or being done slowly. And mentally, that's a hard shift, especially when we come from our fast-paced world that we live in here in the United States. Everything is go, go, go. Here it is right now. Amazon Prime will get it to you in 2 days. But here, we had to do things slowly. It took us a couple weeks to get the electricity turned on. And when we did get moved in, we used a cooler for our refrigerator for the first 2 weeks before we had one brought in. And so just being okay with things being imperfect and being okay with the understanding that things are going to be hard was the biggest mental hurdle that I had. I honestly was not prepared for the amount of extra work that comes to being the homemaker whenever those modern servants aren't available to do things for me. But I feel like now I've got a handle on it. I still have my rough days where I'm not thrilled, but happiness comes and goes, and we have to choose to be joyful even when it is difficult and we might not necessarily be happy. The third question here is it worth it to be radically frugal? And I, without a doubt, have to say yes. You see, I'm not here trying to do something for fun. If it were up to me, I would magically have the beautiful big house that's perfect in all ways with the beautiful aesthetics and just all of the things. But I'm being radically frugal, and my husband's being radically frugal because our goal is not for ourselves, but to teach our children what it means to live a realistic and a practical life. And for us, that means that we do not take on debt, including our mortgages. We can't expect our children to do something like that unless we're willing to also do it, because they'll always catch more than they're talked to or taught. So I'd have to say yes, being radically frugal is worth it. It's worth it for the peace of mind of knowing that we've got sturdy characters and that we can get through whatever is facing us, and that we know as long as we keep putting one foot in front of the other, that we will make it through. And being radically frugal allows us to really see and soak in the joys of everyday little things. I thoroughly enjoy waking up and hearing the birds sing out our window and enjoying that first cup of hot coffee in the morning. Those things might not be some of the things that I love so much. Simple joys like that would be harder to see if everything was done perfectly for me. Instead, it forces me to actually look for and seek out the joys of what life brings us, and that the simplest little thing can make everything just that much better. I can think about this summer when I was inside and it was hot and I was in the kitchen, so my stove was going, my oven was going. I was a sweaty hot mess and I had dishes up to my nose, and I was in there just scrubbing away trying to get things done so that way the house could be back in order. And I was not in a great mood about it. I won't lie, I was frustrated just because I was tired and there was a lot of work to do. And in comes prancing my then 2-year-old, who's now 3, and she comes in with this big giant bouquet of zinnia flowers. And she looks at me and she says, "Mama, for you." And I stopped because that moment brought so much joy to me of seeing that she thought out and thought of her mama to go outside and pick these flowers carefully and arranging them in her little hand to bring inside to me. A lot of times when everything is handed to us or we live a very fast-paced life, little things like that go unnoticed or shook off because it has nothing to do with whatever the flashiest device is or whatever the end point of the goal is for the day. It's not on Facebook. You can't Instagram it. Therefore, a lot of people don't see that as important. And being radically frugal makes me really cherish those little things that come up. How do you deal with the naysayers? We deal with naysayers with grace, and we cover it with love. Firmness in our boundaries, but love. We did not have a ton of people who thought this was a great idea for us to do. In fact, I'm pretty sure most people, including our extended family, thought we were nuts. They thought we were absolutely crazy for moving our family across the country to a home that we had never seen that we paid $22,000 for. And that's okay, because they don't have to understand why we're doing what we're doing. We understand it because we know that we are focusing on changing our family's tree to make sure that our children know and can see that though it's hard, families can live within their means. Even though it's hard, our family can own their home. So to the naysayers, I say cover them with love and know that they don't understand the poles that you have and the things that you want to change and the things you want to teach your own family. And it's okay. And hopefully, maybe they will glean some of the wisdom that you are gathering as you walk through a radically frugal journey. Was your extended family on board, or did they think you were crazy? I kind of answered that one in the last one, but yes, they thought we were crazy. And in a loving way. They know that everything that we do has pure intentions, but we've always been the ones that get poked at from friends and things like that. Oh, look at the multicolored cars. Oh, now look at you. You're going to go and you're going to live where the hillbillies are. And I don't have anything to say to them other than I love you and watch me, watch us grow, watch us flourish, and watch us do what we set out to do. I would not take any sort of bitterness or resentment as an angle for people who don't agree with what we're doing. And it just is what it is. Everybody's got their own opinions. But yes, for the most part, I'm pretty sure all of our friends, most of our friends, and most of our family thought that we were pretty crazy. They probably still do. Why not get a loan to renovate? The reason that we don't get a loan to renovate our home is back to the basic principle that we're trying to live our life by in the financial realm, of that we don't want to owe on any of our personal assets and our personal properties. So our home, where we live, where we reside, is not an asset. It is a liability. It should never be something that we have large sums of money tied up into that could potentially put us under financially, or that we could lose in the time of crises. So rather than taking out loans, we choose to cash flow things as we can afford it. And until we can cash flow those things, we learn to be content with what the Lord has provided us with. And that includes a roof over our head, 4 walls, and lights that we can turn on. So in comparison to a lot of the world, we're doing okay. But no, we will not be taking out any loans to renovate our home now or any other future homes, I don't believe. Did you have thousands more saved up for renovations? No, we didn't. When we moved, we purchased our home. We had a decent savings still left over, but we also moved without my husband having a job. We picked a region, and we found a church that fit with us. I apologize for that one fly. It has decided it wants to be on camera with me. But we picked the state, we picked the region and the house and the church, but we did not have a job lined up when we moved here. So we came purely on faith, and that meant that we had to live off of our savings. We had enough money to fix the main huge problems that needed to be fixed in order for us to move in. And then we had enough to live off of for that year to let us work on the home and for my husband to find a job. But no, we are not rich. We don't come from money. We did not have a huge savings account filled with money to just fix everything when we got here. This is a long journey in faith and learning to be content with what we have. And we are still learning from that to this day. What do we do for work? Do my husband and I both work? Do we work remotely? What's the deets on that? I do not work. I have not worked now in almost 5.5 years, 6 years now. I stay home full time to care for our 4 children and our home. I homeschool, I cook from scratch, I run our household. That is my job, and it is a full-time job. My husband has always worked in blue collar industry. Prior to us living here, he was in the oil and gas industry, and now he works for our local government. He doesn't make a ton of money, but he enjoys his job and he does good work in it. But we are normal folk who make a lower income. I mean, we're under $40,000 a year for our annual income as of right now, but we're comfortable on it because we've set up our finances to be comfortable on that. But no, there's no fancy jobs here, just a blue collar family. Is this our forever home? I don't believe so. I don't think so. Now, I can't see the future, and I know that we are beyond blessed to have this home to call it ours. But I also know that we would love to have more acreage one day, as we are both very big into families sustaining themselves. So ideally, we would like to have acreage where we could have a milk cow and raise more of our own meats, have bigger gardens and orchards, and eventually allow our children the option to build on that land as well to continue the generations of wealth building versus going into debt over mortgages. So honestly, I don't know. We will see how the world looks as the years go on, and we will see where we are economically on if we would just need to stay here, which would be fine because we're comfortable and we're happy, or if we get to move on to bigger pastures. So those are some of the main questions that were asked of me over the last week since I posted that video. If you have any other questions that you'd like me to answer, please leave them down in the comments below. You can also message me on Facebook or on Instagram with the @theproductivehomemaker handle. And I would love to do this again to answer more questions. All right. I hope you have a great week, and I will talk with you real soon.